Motion to reconvene the meeting,
Always a
please.
pleasure.
So moved. Second? All right, got those?
Right.
Oh, no, I didn't, sorry. Tracy and,
Bruce.
thank you, guys.
Okay, Board of Finance, folks. I'd like to, before we move forward, you have the agenda in front of you. And could we do, can I have someone make a motion to maybe just change the agenda slightly so that we can have our guests speak now as opposed to waiting till the end?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Okay, would you like to make the introduction for us, Cindy, please?
Yes, I think most of you have met our audit partner, Leslie Zoll from Bloom Shapiro. Leslie, we have one new board member this year, Joe Corbett. The other faces are probably familiar to you.
Mm-hmm.
And a newly elected Selectman, Carleen Quinn, Teresa Gobert's in the back, and of course our new first Selectman, Rob Smith.
Hi.
Aye.
So thank you for having me tonight. It was interesting to listen to your public hearing. Hopefully my presentation will be just as educational as you were explaining to them. So hopefully for the new folks, this will be helpful for you. So my agenda tonight is to kind of go over what the scope of our engagement was and how we report the information, just some high-level highlights of the financial statements in terms of the financial statements as well as the single audits, and then any required communications that I'm going to tell you tonight. So I'm going to start with just what is our scope. So management, which would be the leadership of the town of East Haddam, is responsible for preparing the financial statements in accordance with GAAP. They're also required to design internal controls so that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. We come in to do the audit, we express opinion on the financial statements, we don't write the financial statements, and we plan our audit to ensure that there's no material misstatements within those financials. So our opinion is based on opinion units, usually the governmental activities, which is all of your funds all together, with the exception of your pension plans and some of your agency funds, and then each major fund, which is based on a calculation of the percentage of the total. So the general fund is always a major fund of the town. You also have, I believe, the capital projects as a major fund and some other ones as well. And we provide those opinions to you in conformity with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. In conjunction with the government auditing standards, we're also required to opine on federal we are required to perform a federal single audit, which would encompass testing compliance on certain programs that are funded from the federal government. And that guideline is, we call uniform guidance. That's the legislation that the federal government gives us in which to do our audits for the federal side, and then the State Single Audit Act gives us the responsibility of doing the similar type of audit on state financial assistance programs. So your financial statements, you did receive a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion yet again this year, as you have in several past years. That's what you'd want to receive each and every year, and SNE has done that again. We don't have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control to report to you in terms of the financial statements as a whole in the financial report.
Well, you don't mean CAFR, do you? Excuse me? It says here CAFR audit.
It does say CAFR, but technically right now you're not a CAFR, but
right.
it's just a terminology I used in the report, but you just have basic financial statements right now. According to your presentation earlier, you are going to be doing a comprehensive annual financial report for 2021.
And just so the board recognizes what that means, in essence, it's taking all these financial statements and tying them together and putting it into one kind of bigger report, if you will. It includes all the information we already put together, correct?
So I'm gonna just explain to you the differences a little bit. So the basic financial statements, the core financial statements will still exist. So from the exhibits, through the notes, through the RSIs, all of that would stay pretty much the same. What makes a basic financial statement a comprehensive annual financial statement, there's additional information about the town that's not required under the regular GAAP statements. For instance, there would be a listing in there of all the principal officials within the town, superintendent, first selectman, all the board members, their names will be listed in the report. There's a very voluminous statistical table section in the back of the report that we do not audit, that the town would need to compile in order to qualify for the CAFR, and there's about 16 tables in the back on 10 years of historical data. So that's basically the
That's kind of
meat
where I'm
that
going on that,
makes
is it's kind of taking
it
all this data
different.
that we have and it's sort of producing some information for people to see.
But the audit you just completed is a test audit, right?
The audit that we completed is just the basic financial statements.
Okay, but a CAFR isn't just a test. It doesn't sample certain areas. It's more comprehensive, right?
The audit's the same, it's just the amount of information that's put in the document.
The Bloom and Shapiro will do the same work they've always done. We are gonna provide them with additional data to incorporate into it.
We
So,
don't do additional testing. We're required under government auditing standards to do an audit regardless if it's a CAFR or a basic financial statement.
so the additional would come from us and be provided to them and printed in the CAFR
Okay,
when it's released with the audit.
thank you.
Just to give you a very high level financial highlight, I did put a snapshot of the governmental activities balance sheet here on page 6 for your review. This is in the financial statements as Exhibit 1. The increase to net position, and again, this governmental activities column is all of your funds all together with the exception of pension and agency funds on a full accrual basis of accounting. Your increase in net position was 1.7 million for 6/30/19, and that seems to be consistent through the previous years. I think 2018 also had a similar increase. On page 7, I've given you a snapshot of the governmental funds balance sheet. This is on a modified basis of accrual, so it does not include any of your it doesn't record revenue for long-term assets, it doesn't include your capital assets, it doesn't include your long-term debt. It only recognizes revenue that's measurable and available. And again, we're talking about opinion units before, and these are all of your major funds, the general fund, capital projects and reserve, your bonded capital projects and your purple fund, those are considered major. Everything else is in that non-major fund column, which includes several funds that are outlined in the back of the report.
And just to call your attention to, you can see on page 6 that our liabilities at the end of 2000, other liabilities were $20 million, and this year there's 7. That's because we bonded for this building. So when you look at the bonded capital projects, that number will remain a negative until we issue the full. It doesn't show, right now we have short-term debt. Once we bond, that will go away, if you will, because it won't be short-term debt.
Just to give you some additional highlights, the unassigned fund balance in the general fund is $4.9 million. That's 15.8% of the unassigned as 4.9, which is 15.8% of budgeted expenditures. 15.8 is a good range to be in. It's the range that rating agencies will accept. I mean, their range gets larger, but
Our policy
definitely
goes
in that
between 8
range.
and 15%.
Yeah.
And 10
Where am I looking? I want to write that down on here. Where am I? Fund balance, where's it say?
Under fund balances, you go down all the way
Doesn't
down.
say it, but you have to write.
There's the fourth, actual, see, under
First
unassigned,
column.
unassigned under
On the
general,
bottom.
$1 million?
first column,
First count?
with numbers
It's unassigned.
down there.
That's 8,
It's 8 million,
right?
but what she's referring to is the 4.9 million, a couple lines up. The unassigned fund balance
Oh, right, okay.
is
That's
15%.
15%, all right.
15.8 of our
Right.
general fund operating.
Your bonded capital projects fund actually got a pretty large increase this year, and that was due to the permanent bonding of some of your projects. And tax collection rate is again, very high at 98.9%. Does anybody have any other questions on the financial statements? I'd like to move on to the single audits if I could. This year, you did qualify to have a federal single audit because you've gone over that $750,000 threshold, primarily because of the bridge projects. Your federal awards expended as of 6/30/19 is $1,101,898. And we did test the bridge projects under the highway planning and construction cluster. So we tested the compliance that were required under the federal guidelines. You have a clean opinion on the compliance side. However, we did have a significant deficiency in internal control only because of the new procurement standards that came out that are now applicable as of July 1. So your procurement standard needs to be updated to allow for that additional language.
And where do we stand on that, Cindy?
Well, we're going to be sitting, would you like it?
No, you wouldn't.
We're trying to schedule a meeting with the state because the state tells us how we're going to bid it, what our contracts are. They administer these contracts virtually, so we need to work with the state to get compliant as well because we're in full compliance, and the federal single audit did allude to that. We're in full compliance with our grants with the state and our contracts with the state, but this new procurement thing has not, I think, filtered down appropriately, and we need to work on that.
Are you seeing this with other municipalities? There's a disconnect?
Almost, I can say there's many municipalities who have not instituted this policy, so we're seeing this finding quite a bit this year. It's a new standard. We've been talking about it year over year, but when it's actually here and they see it in writing that it's not done, then that's kind of when people start to understand more about what it is they need to do. So this is a common, it's definitely a common finding in other municipalities.
And so my thinking is, you coming forth as well as all these other groups, the state is going to kind of get their arms around the fact that they're behind the times with this.
And we'll be discussing with our main engineering firm who is administering a lot of these projects as well. And we're trying to get us and the firm and the state at the same table to remedy this going forward. Absolutely.
Very good, thank you.
And there's new policies being written in the state right now that Cindy could, look and review for guidance. On the state single audit side, the state awards expended were $4,358,485. The programs that we tested for compliance were Town Aid Road, Local Road and Bridge Projects, and LoCIP. You received a clean opinion on compliance for those programs and no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies on those programs. Just for your informational purposes, in the basic financial statements, the first footnote in those statements have a very brief overview of all the policies within the town, so I encourage you to read that section. There was no new standards that we adopted that apply to East Hartford this year.
East Haddam.
East Haddam. And the significant estimates that we have in the financial statements, capital assets are a significant estimate based on the useful lives that are estimated, the net pension liability, and the total OPEB liability that are very volatile depending on interest rates and assumptions. In terms of required auditor communication, there was no difficulties encountered in performing the audit, no disagreements with management, no independence issues, and Cindy didn't go shop for other opinions or anything. She has been very good to work with and has provided information very timely. So I appreciate her efforts in making a smooth audit.
Thank you, Leslie. What I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna go across the board, see if anyone has any questions.
Sure.
Start with you, Tracy.
I'm all set.
I'm all set, thank you very much.
No question.
Joe?
Nothing, thank you.
Harvey?
I'm fine, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us
Thank
this
you.
evening.
Thank you, Leslie.
Okay, now, if I may, kind of bring us back to the agenda, we're gonna look at the item number, I guess number 4. Do we do guest and audience comments? And there are no guests in the audience, so we'll move on to approval of the minutes. You have a copy of the finance board minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review them, and are there any additions, deletions, or corrections that need made? Okay, with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the meetings as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Correspondence, inside your packet, there are, well, you have to take out your eyeglasses, but
Yeah,
there are
sorry.
some pieces here that are a little bit tough to look at. But I want to start by a bit of an introduction. I know when I first joined the Board of Finance, one of the things that helped me get through the whole understanding of municipal finance was attending workshops offered by the CCM. And even today, I still go back to the same ones that I took maybe now 2 times. I went to an easier version of it at the conference. I went with one with Carlene. And every time I go to one of these workshops, they're delivered professionally, they give you all the resources, there's a good dialogue, you hear about what other municipalities are doing, and you go away learning a little bit more about your role. If you haven't taken advantage of them, there are 3 that are being offered right here. So one is Municipal Budgets 101. And the gentleman that conducts this is the town manager for the town of Avon, right? That's who's doing this one. And this one is dated, it looks like
January 4th.
January 4th. Okay, so that's a Saturday, and it goes 9 to noon. Great meeting. If you're unfamiliar and want to get a refreshing, I would go to that. I would consider that one. There's an additional one, the 2020 newly elected workshop, and that one is January 11th and goes from 9 to 3, so it's a full day meeting. And I sense that it includes not only information about budgeting and the like, but things like Freedom of Information Act, working through a meeting, all the rest. I think you'll find any of these great if you would consider attending. And then the last one is how to run legal and effective public meetings, and that one is January, looks like 30th or 20th.
30th,
30th.
and it's
that's,
Where it is,
it's here.
well, that's here too. Thank you.
that night, okay.
And that's one I think I might need a little freshening up on. But any of these meetings are great to attend. I encourage you to go. As a member of the CCM, so we're all members of the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, you can go for free. So there's no cost to you. Great meetings, great people. Good. It's a good thing. Please let Cindy know. And do you know the suspense dates on all of these? So the January 4th
They're
one?
pretty quick, but at least a few days in advance. And if, just to add to that, if any of you plan on attending several workshops, there is the CCMO, which is a Certified Connecticut Municipal Official. There is a small fee for the town of $120 to be part of the program, and you have 2 years to accomplish it. And the sign-up is January 1 or June 1. And we saw 60 some odd people get their CCMOs at the convention this year. So if you're going to be attending these workshops and you want to take advantage of that achievement and and designation, we can certainly register you for that as well. Or we'll set you up so you can sign up and register for yourself as well and pay for it.
Very good. Okay, moving forward on the agenda, we just covered audit fiscal year, so we'll move to the chairman's section. You have a copy of the tax collector's report. Again, we remain at a very high paying rate. Are there any questions of any of the board members on the tax collector report?
Looks good to me.
Bruce?
No. No.
Nope, and I will pay my sewer.
It's funny, just a little side note, I picked up the mail today and I saw a nice letter from my daughter from the town, and I'm like, oh, she got her first property tax. Can't wait to give it to her.
Promise I will pay your sewer tax.
Okay, moving forward. All right, so we talked about tax collector liaison assignments. We discussed these at our last meeting. I have them all assigned. I'm assuming there were no issues with any of them. We only had one question, and that was a liaison with the consumer union, and I believe you volunteered for that, did you not?
Yes, I did.
I didn't volunteer, you actually volunteered.
Yes,
for
I
it.
did.
Okay,
Yes, I
good.
did.
So we can add Todd to that list.
And I did make one change, and I just have to look at it. A lot of the land use, I would just stick under Jim Ventris, but I did add like WPCA and ZBA, and I need to add planning and zoning, because I tend to think of them all under the umbrella of Jim, although planning and zoning is under you, Bill, I believe. I'll have to look at that, but I just wanted to spell them all out.
Yeah, I don't
Because-
have planning and zoning.
No, you don't. So that'll, Harvey, I'm just gonna expand on the land use underneath your liaisons. It doesn't really change what it was, but it just lists them all.
Good enough.
And for everyone on the group, I know some are more active than others, and I know when I first came on the board, I was pretty active in contacting all these folks. My expectation is this, it's a liaison, so if you could just draft an email message and just say, hey, I want to introduce myself, I'm Bill DeCristofaro, I'm working with the Board of Education. If you have any questions, please correspond with me. They'll know that you're the respective person that their issues come
And
from.
I do send an email out to all of these parties with the list. That'll go out within the week. So everybody will get a list as to who their liaison is as well.
All right, so I don't need to send one to Rob Smith nor Cindy Bricky.
There you go. But I would say a Board of Finance, not the Board of Education that you're a member of.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, I said
I
Board
know,
of
I
Education,
know.
meaning that I am the liaison to the Board of Education. I'm using the example. This is true, don't say Board of Ed, that would be a foot in our mouth. Okay, good. So we covered all that with the assignments, I appreciate that. And now let's have our subcommittee report. We'll begin with communications. Todd, Bruce?
Okay, I guess that's why we're sitting side by side. Not much to report. We got the first quarter report coming out this Thursday in East Haddam News. That should be interesting. We'll see how the folks read that and good questions we get from that. And then we're working on a next set of articles. We don't have one particularly selected yet. We're having a meeting this Wednesday to help us do that. And then we'll march on through the rest of the year and through budget season with hopefully regular reports, like at least once a month is what we're looking for.
Excellent, good work. Good work on that committee, guys. Appreciate that effort.
I think that'd be very, very well received. I hope so, at least.
Yes.
And Joe is also on that group now as well.
Oh, forgive me, Joe, for.
No, I've yet to make a meeting, but I will be here on Wednesday.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Credit, take the credit. Sure.
Don't listen to him.
Okay, moving forward, we'll go to financial needs roundtable. As
Do we have a date?
we discussed, we deliver the capital improvement plan. The financial needs roundtable, when is the date? I thought it was the 16th, is that correct?
You can put up the 11th and the 16th, but I didn't think you'd be ready by the 11th.
So-
You said you didn't think you'd be ready. I'm assuming it's the 16th.
So it's,
Is that a yes, the 16th?
Yeah, yes. And I will indicate, I don't know if we'll have all of the capital requests in, but it'll be a good opportunity to do a recap of the PowerPoint and just to begin the walkthrough and get the feel of going through all of the requests that we have thus far.
Now, the important thing about this particular meeting, and Rob knows this, is there's a bit of turnover here, and we have new people joining this committee, and their goal is really a charge to accept all the projects and then help evaluate the projects, kind of screen out the ones that may not be necessarily acceptable, but everything else gets evaluated, and then present that to the Board of Selectmen, to then to bring it to us later on. So we have to kind of figure out, the role that we serve is to really figure out how to pay for some of these. And you know, tonight is a perfect example of that. This idea of having a track works right through that process. And I could bet you, if I went around the room, I bet you we could get unanimous support of a track. It's just when we're gonna pay for it or how we're gonna pay for it if we do that. And so that's the challenge that we face, and that's one of the tools that this committee will have. The truth is, we won't go long periods of time without addressing capital needs. And so while this first year might be a little bumpy, I'm sure Rob will handle it well, we'll get them through it. This committee will have the opportunity to consistently look at capital and look at the things that we plan to do. So, good work on that front. I'm glad we have something on the 16th. Anyone want to make any questions or comments on that at all?
Is it a round table or a committee?
It's the committee, it's renamed. What is the actual name?
It's still a financial needs
Okay.
roundtable. Everyone's terms expire December 31st, so the Board of Selectmen is, and then look at the suggestion of the Board of Finance of Long Range Capital. So that would be something the Board of Selectmen's gonna have to consider.
The
and
Board of
address.
Selectmen making a standing committee. Has
Right.
that been addressed yet?
It has not, it has not.
But would you like to share with us your attitude on that? You're making a
Yes,
standing
yes,
committee?
absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Just wanted to hear from
Yeah,
you
yes.
when you said that.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, a question. When is your next roundtable meeting?
That's what we just
The
said.
16th.
Monday.
16th. Does the public know that? Those folks who are here today? do
Oh,
they?
yeah,
They know that, okay.
yes.
Well, they were told about that as a good opportunity for them to present. And so they knew about that and they knew about this, so.
There'll be additional announcements and everything.
It's just real important because people are heightened interest and they
I-
wanna be sure they're not forgotten in the loop. That's,
I
or the perception of not being
personally
forgotten.
emailed the date to Mr. Ritzek, so he's well
That
aware.
should work.
That should do it.
Okay, that should work.
Harvey, do you have anything to add to the financial needs roundtable?
Yeah, I guess I do now that. One of the reasons it seems to me that it's advisable, it's useful to have some sort of a fairly systematic, non-subjective process for reviewing capital projects is because you saw this evening what's gonna happen. That you can, it's like falling off a log to get 20 students and 6 faculty members and 20 parents to come and say, we gotta have a track. But the fact that people want it does, and a lot of people even maybe want it, doesn't in and of itself mean that that's the highest priority capital project that will emerge.
Correct.
I don't have a stupid example off the top of my head, but I guess would you rather have a track or a bridge to your house, right? Or a bridge to East Haddam? So, in any event, that, I'm just, I guess, preaching to the choir about the need for a somewhat rigorous process for evaluating these things, where the squeaky wheel doesn't necessarily automatically get the grease.
Good. Anybody else, any thoughts, questions?
Also, I wanna add on to what Harvey had to say. Yes, it's very important to be objective in this process, because the town of East Haddam is made up of a lot of different people, different needs, and different ideas. So if we do that properly and objectively, it would probably drive another solution for the track. In other words, rather than having the track done all, for example, I'm just saying this, for example, I haven't designed this, is that one way is to get the track all at once. The track is made of components that don't have to be made all at once. So we can spread the cost out, yet have it at such a point that the kids don't have to run on parking lots, they can run on a track. Now, I explained this to the Board of Education meeting, a couple of years ago. I was on the track team for Hale Ray in the mid-sixties, and we made our own track. We used, the parents donated funds and donated their bulldozers and their trucks to help make a track. And it wasn't the greatest track in the world, but it was better than running on a parking lot. So what I'm saying here, it's very important to have an objective process because it will create other ideas that'll end up with different solutions to the problem if we do it objectively.
And as a finance board, there's a number of ways, so let's just go back to what I said about if we all agree that a track is okay, we could either buy it right and we can make it right now, which wouldn't happen right now, but it would happen soon, or we could put money aside each year for a couple of years and pay for it then,
That's
or we
right.
could borrow money, or we could get a grant. There's so many ways of doing this, and they all need to be addressed. And so in our preparatory meeting with the superintendent, anticipating the interest that we had tonight, I told him, you need to come to us with a few courses of action. Let's look at a couple of plans here, so that in anticipation of us moving forward, we can at least articulate that we looked at the project. So that's
right.
where we are with that. Okay, great. Financial policies. I'm gonna move on to that section. In front of you, you all have, now, just so you know, I gave her my binder. I'm not being any special treated, but I had a binder. So I gave this in the other day and said, could you give me all the policies? She says, I'm updating the entire board. Each of you have, in the clip there, are all our updated financial policies, the ones that we refer to during the budget meeting, and that will get posted on the website. So here's kind of where we are with this. Some of these policies, we said, yes, they're good, we're gonna move through them. Budget, for instance. Well, we don't know that it's perfect because we haven't really driven it yet. So we're gonna use this policy to kind of move us forward. We have benefited in the past when we looked at things like the fund policies in terms of what our operating ratio, when we were talking about debt service before. That wasn't in our debt policy, that was in our,
No, the
when they looked at the unassigned fund balance.
the unassigned fund balance is in the fund policy.
The fund policies,
well as the
right? So
contingency.
in the fund policies, we've had this challenge now for 3 years in a row. When we came up with that policy, it saved us so much energy. We were able to say, okay, let's see if we use some of that unassigned fund balance to keep the mill rate low. Let's plug it in. We go and if you attended one of our workshops, you would have seen us going back and forth on that until we got the number that kind of got the mill rate and kept us in line. Those are the kind of things that we work toward. I mentioned to that gentleman today that in our debt management policy, we have a stated debt percentage to make sure that we don't go above and beyond. It's not only for us as good guidance, but it's also for our future leaders. So we're kicking the tires on most of this, and we're just gonna move through. Any other comments, thoughts on this at all? Did I miss anything?
You do need to approve the debt service policy, so I've made a note that if it's the pleasure of the board and the chairman, the board has vetted it, and I think our committee has killed it. We can bring it to your January meeting to formalize its approval.
Yes, that's very good. Okay. So maybe you have an old notebook at home and you could put these in.
Yeah, I think you gave us one already, didn't you?
Yeah, we were
No,
issued.
you have it, and I even gave you tabs now and an index.
I brought these into Cindy and she got it all.
I'm not sure it's gonna be thick enough though, but
It'll
it'll be big enough binder.
When we're done, we may have to add, yeah.
Okay, moving on the agenda, we'll go to first selectman. Rob, would you like to?
I think, we just touched on at the previous meeting, just about everything we need to say about that, you know, we're gonna be checking, I will expand a little bit on the, Neptune Avenue, bridge replacement, or it's really a culvert that's being replaced. So it seems like 1.2 million should make a very nice culvert. But we're gonna evaluate that quite carefully. There's some strange things in it. I don't think we need stone, veneer stone, not concrete faux stone, but real stone on the side of the culvert, on the concrete, and nor necessarily do we need a foot of asphalt for our travel surface. So, but there's a number of things we're going to look at and see how best to address it, and see if we can get it down from that 1.2 million to. It'd be nice if we get it down to $1 million, but still, it is at least double our estimate for that. So we'll be going to FEMA just to make sure that that is not going to be a huge issue. as far as our, grant from them, so. But besides that, I think I touched on everything that's going on, and again, trees are a big issue for us, so.
In anticipation of our budget season, the same, I just want to speak this among the board members, because I know we've already talked on it, but if you could either work with Beth or work with Cindy and Beth, but if you could come up with some courses of action of how you want to solve this tree problem, we'd like to look at that. We were challenged by that last year. I think in essence, based on how many trees Beth anticipated we had and our time cycle and the cost of it, that's how we came up with the 150,000, right? I mean, isn't that exactly the math that we applied last year? We want to have some sort of science to the approach of how we're spending the money, because we have to justify that.
Exactly.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Moving forward on the agenda, Finance Director.
Yes, just a heads up, we met with Bill Lindsay today, our municipal financial advisor. Rob and I, we walked through, we have a bond anticipation note coming due in February, and we'll be looking to roll that forward. We're not ready to bond for the remaining projects because the radio towers are not done. We talked with him about short-term borrowing for FEMA projects, which I've discussed at the board level, that Kathy and I have reviewed it, and while we do have cash on hand, we'd think short-term borrowing might be a better solution than really drawing down a lot of our cash. And we discussed with him our capital savings plan and folding into it approximately $10 million in debt based on the requests and how we could model that. And we talked to him even looking at the USDA note to see if we could even get a lower interest rate and refinance that. So we anticipate having all that information by the time the capital plan comes forward to give you the opportunity for some modeling and to really understand what you can and can't do in the scope of the capital plan and your desires for the overall budget. So we're trying to get that all for the board well in advance of budget season. And that was a great opportunity this morning. I had difficulties, there was difficulty with our spam filter, and 3 of you probably didn't, I got bounced back?
I got it.
You did?
I did, which
Okay.
is bizarre, because when you said that today, I'm like,
It said it bounced back.
I think I got the whole thing.
So my question to all of you, and our town clerk has concerns if we issue town emails because she doesn't want individuals chatting amongst themselves, and I truly get that. You have rules and regulations to adhere to, but food for thought as to whether we get you all town emails and then you can go right into OneDrive without issue. The Board of Selectmen has email addresses and the Board of Ed has email addresses. I don't envision us issuing.
Do all of the members of the Board of Ed?
Yes.
Yes, I liked it.
So
It is
takes
very
it out of your personal venue.
What's nice is it does take it from your personal email, as long as we follow the rules with the Freedom of Information, where we have to make sure that we're not starting meetings by accident, by corresponding with more than one person on certain topics, but it is a great way. You probably noticed that I have one. I'm not sure why we didn't offer it to everyone, but I do have one, and I'm personally open to having everyone.
And it raises a good thing as well, and Bill and I discussed this, it was either Bill and I or Rob and I. If there's an FOI of issue for all of you, it doesn't affect your personal email.
They're not
It
gonna
would come
pull
right
all the
through the
emails that
town.
you had on your personal email. They'll only
Well,
pull off of that
you
server.
know, whether they're entitled to or not, that's a discussion to be had, but you wouldn't be put in that predicament. So, food for thought, and I really think it's gotta be an all or nothing, if it's not just a chair. But, if that's something you might be interested in, then I don't have to worry about things bouncing back, and things can go right into OneDrive, and you can see them, and you can see all the history of all the board meetings.
Cindy, I don't know that it's a decision that anyone's gonna disagree with on this board. Is there anyone that feels otherwise, that they wouldn't want
Absolutely would not want.
you do not want one?
And I would like to know how much on an annual basis mailing us our packages costs.
I don't mail them anymore.
I would like to know how much it cost the last time you mailed them. Because if it's less than $200 for the whole bunch of us, I'll write the damn check. I want the paper.
You want the
And
paper?
I don't want to print it out because I don't want to have my printer chewing away from 6 in the morning till noontime.
Board packets average $5 to $10 a packet to mail, depending what was in them.
With that said, I don't mind having it emailed to me, but for those members, so let's, there are two separate issues here. Issue one is, for those of us that are communicating on email, would it be acceptable to have a town email program for all of us to keep us consistent and we'll communicate there? Knowing that if we do this, we can't coordinate, we can't talk about all the topics that we discuss here because that's considered a meeting, so we have to know the rules up front. We're violating FOI regulations and it's going to be a problem. But we can correspond with Cindy or me, or, you know, share some specific documents related to something very, you know, brief. We understand that. If that's the case, I'm in favor of us all having an email. The second issue is, do we send everything out by mail or do we send it out hard copy? And I'm in favor of, if you're okay with this, to let individual members that want paper to just, well, we can do it for them. You know, in my case, I'm fine with what you have. It might just be Harvey that's the only one that wants the packet, and that's fine, we'll mail it to him. Are you the only one? Are you also on hard copy?
Yes, because what I do, when it, funny, I didn't get this email this time.
You
I was-
didn't get it, but I
No,
got it.
I was done. I gotta get with you, with
But we're just like,
Comcast.
that's the
We're
weird thing.
Comcast victims is what we are, at least I am.
But I got mine.
I know you
I
got your,
resent it, and I resent it to you today.
today, late in the day?
Yeah.
So do you actually physically print off your?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So then having a email would be way better. Having a,
My own email, and
Town
I would get
used
it
to have
at
an
the
email.
same time everybody else gets it. Plus,
But you
I
still
agree.
like the
I
hard
like to,
copy?
yes, because it costs a fortune for me to print out.
And you print them all out in your?
I print them all out, yes, because I like to be
And
prepared.
that's,
for the
and that's
meeting.
fine, we can, Bruce, how about you?
I'll go whatever the crowd wants.
No, but we're all gonna get emails, and I'm making it at each individual's member discretion whether you want a hard copy or not.
A hard copy for me.
Alright, so 3 hard copies. Joe, would you like hard copy too?
I'm fine with the email.
Okay. Hard copy?
no.
Alright, so 3 kits, 3 hard copy you'll send out, and 3 you'll just email.
The only caveat I'd offer you is sometimes your packets aren't ready until, they were ready at like 7 o'clock Friday night. So I'd have to alert you to that and try to get it quicker.
But you can send an email with all their stuff out and then send the packet out.
Yep. Yep.
Would it be?
So,
Could I
In
come
some
by?
instances, you may notify them that I'm either sending it out or you wanna pick it up,
That's right.
you can
Right,
come pick it
yeah.
up, and they can
I'll
come
come
get it.
there was
We
more.
used to never
yeah.
mail it, we'd hang it on the door at the old town office building, and you'd have to come get your packet.
That's okay with me.
Yeah, don't mail it. I'll come
Yeah.
and get
Okay.
it.
I agree.
A
Alrighty.
hard copy.
We can
but
mail
then-
it to
yeah.
Harvey, though,
Oh,
he
yeah.
lives on the other end of town.
There's,
But if I don't mail it, not to beat a dead, if I don't mail it to Harvey by like Wednesday, he's not gonna get it anyways. I've had packets take over a week to get to Harvey.
That's my risk, not yours.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Right, so the bottom line is, for those 3 members, we'll mail. All of us are going to have a town, email address.
Except for Harvey?
No, he'll get one. He'll
No,
give us-
Yeah.
the fact that I don't use it is not anybody's
Yeah.
problem.
well, what we
Okay.
can do is, somebody can help you set it up so that, so the problem would be then, Board of Ed, there seemed to be more communication. I don't, there's not a lot of communication that goes on in
And if
between
you wa-
meetings.
And if you want it
What
on,
happens is now, that's gonna be where, if something's happening, that's where it's gonna be, and then he's not gonna know. So,
I'll shoot him an email on his personal email.
right,
No,
you can,
no, that's fine.
You'll check.
That's fine.
And if you'd
I
like,
just object to, first of all, I don't read umpteen pages on a computer,
Yeah.
ever.
yeah.
And the second is, I like to make notes.
I have the same guy saying.
And that's fine.
that's fine.
You know, everything's a perfect-
That means I'm older than God.
Nobody's
the way it
nobody's
is.
making any judgment on it, that's why we'll satisfy all of you.
No, that's fine, and we'll work, and if you are one of those individuals who would like it on your phone, I would have to schedule you an appointment with our technology department to do that.
It's so easy,
It's
just
easy,
download the thing,
yeah.
it's really
Yeah,
easy.
okay.
And as far as it goes, how do you do it for the others? First initial, last name?
What is it? It would be bruce.dutch@easthaddam.org.
Yeah, your bill.dechristopher.
Got it.
So, okay,
Right now I have a BOF chair. Will I be changing that?
no.
Okay, so I'm
It'll,
fine.
it'll come to either one.
All right.
You can email me at like 4 different addresses, I'll get it.
All right.
You'll just have to go to probably a different carrier, so you use Outlook as opposed to your regular.
You could do it right
No,
from
you
the
can
web.
add it.
Well, you can do
Yeah.
it from the web, yes, but that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, but, you know.
And then you just add
Just
it.
remember, it won't be on your regular email, so.
Yep.
It could though, but it won't. All right, so
All
let's
right,
move the meeting
that being
forward.
said, your November year-to-date budget report. So you have your summary, the cover sheet in comparison to last year. There is nothing really unusual that I'm concerned with. Obviously, as you get into the detail, we are watching Public Works carefully because we're down a mechanic and there's repairs that need to be made. And we're sending things out for repair. There are interviews taking place tomorrow for a mechanic, so they're moving in the right direction. Otherwise, things are tracking rather nicely. There's no real red flags for me to hold up to at this point. Revenues are doing good. The only real revenue issue, and the governor spoke to this last week, is we haven't received our first installment of Town Aid Road. We normally receive it by now, but he seemed pretty assuring that it was coming. We have received our first installment of ECS, and taxes are tracking very nicely. Interest income is tracking nicely. Health clerk fees, et cetera. Everyone seems to be on target. Just a reminder, some things just happen in the fourth quarter, like the transfers to other funds, expenses for the resident state trooper. Those all tend to happen in the fourth quarter or the 12th month of the year, so you won't see things in those months or as in the total. Again, I didn't see anything that really threw me off. Although I'm looking at, and I had some assistance in preparing this, under town clerk licenses and hunting fees, fishing. That's a negative number, and it might be because something posted wrong, so I'll just double check that for you.
Going down over time.
Or sometimes the stroke of one number off, you post to the wrong account. So I will verify that for you and update you on that next month. You have the capital report of where all the capital projects stand. And again, everything seems to be tracking well. The high school roof, the Board of Education CIP committee will be meeting on Wednesday evening. It's anticipated that they will be voting on the final invoices on that project, which then means if that occurs, it's tentatively on the agenda, then they would vote to send to the Board of Ed that the project's complete, and then to the Board of Selectmen, and I would start the reimbursement process. So hopefully in January or February, we'll be submitting for reimbursement from the state, and Kevin can give a better summary of how much reserves we've used and what we received from the state. That project, for Joe's benefit, we thought was gonna be about $1.4 million, and the quote came in under 600,000.
Significant.
That's significant, yes. So hopefully I'll have greater updates for you on that, which will also be helpful in the budget process as to how much we anticipate in using in reserves that we had planned on for the roof.
Any word from the fire department on that truck last month?
Actually, FEMA has not released the grant documentations yet. So they're prepared to submit, but the grant hasn't been dropped, if you will, for access yet.
Oh, like to actually submit your stuff?
Right, right. It's not been released. So they're ready to go, it's just not available for them at this point.
Very good. Questions? Harvey, do you have any questions of Cindy? No. Joe? Nothing. Bruce? None.
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm sorry, did you mean award-winning Cindy Burke?
Award winning is right, yes.
Funny, Tracy. Okay, budget calendar update. I received word from 3 members that they were available throughout March. One of the challenges we have is getting the 6 of you and myself and the first selectman around the table and having a space to put us all in. So you do have 3 Saturdays scheduled, which could be sufficient, but it might be nice to see if we can fit you in on one or 2 weekdays for any department heads who can't make a Saturday. So if people don't mind just giving me a heads up as to when they are or not available in March, from March 9th to March 24th. That's your window. But you do have 3 Saturdays. That's a lot of time.
So we have the 7th, the 14th, and the 23rd.
Right.
You're suggesting another maybe midday?
Well, it doesn't even have to be midweek, and maybe because your last budget workshop is on the Saturday the 21st, maybe a workshop that following week on some day, just in case, after deliberating all day, you had a few loose ends to tie up. We can get you that information, and you can take action. So maybe a night or two the week of the 23rd.
Would we
24th.
contemplate, and I just want to, I'm open for suggestions, just me thinking aloud here. Would we have our monthly Board of Finance meeting for March 9th. Would we contemplate moving that date for this one instance and then wrapping a budget meeting into that?
You could take any just immediate action and make it a budget workshop as well.
And am I thinking, but moving the date only for, I
moving
agree
the
with the
date.
logic of.
As opposed to a Monday.
And, well, we can make it another date, but I'm saying maybe
Oh.
push it out. If we've given Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen a chance to speak on the 7th and 14th, that's when we start going to work, and then we sometimes need to recall somebody to discuss stuff. And if we have to throw something at the end, I'm thinking, why don't we just move our budget, our board meeting and do it all in one night? Is that too much, and is that not appropriate? I'm throwing out the idea, it doesn't mean it's mine. I mean, I think we have to do it. What do you guys feel?
I think that makes sense.
I think that's a good idea.
And what I can do is I'll work with Linda to find what nights are available and shoot you all an email.
Okay,
That just
and I'll throw out the one that I see as a tentative one.
Excuse me?
19th,
The 19th is available.
26th.
26th is too late.
So the 19th would be our regular Board of Finance meeting, including budget workshops.
It'd be a special meeting, but yes.
But we would cancel the Board of Finance meeting for the
For the
9th.
9th.
That's when I can get you in here.
Okay, what I would tell you to do is leave the 9th on there tentatively, only because we could have some action you need to take, and then we'll be scrambling to schedule. We can.
All right, I agree with that.
So we can look to
We'll
a
throw
meeting at
that,
19.
throw that out as the 19th. So you just suggested the 19th is the day. I'll put that on the calendar as a workshop,
And that is what day, Linda?
a Thursday. And what time will we do that?
7? Unless people can do 6 to get started sooner. Is 6 possible?
6 is good.
I'm fine with 6.
Let's do 6 p.m.
Six
And-
it is.
And just quickly, on your process, I have you receiving the budgets from the Selectmen and Education on the 7th. Last year, we just did that move forward, but that might be the opportunity to just maybe spend some time with Rob and do a high-level overview of Board of Selectmen budget, and then let me know who you want to come in, so then I can then schedule them the next 2 Saturdays, or the 19th, because I have to reach out to people to get them to come. So we can fine-tune that. We want to make sure we keep these budgets, calendars up to date and posted, so I will add the 19th
6 p.m. Got it.
to our calendar. Beautiful. You don't need to take any action on it, it's just there.
Anything else, Cindy?
Can I just add one thing? I've been looking at a payroll service. We currently do payroll in-house. It has to go through Board of Selectmen, and it would make some changes. Our Munis system is very good at doing payroll, but these payroll services are much more powerful, especially with biometric time clocks and doing a lot of the computing and not a manual payroll. And both my payroll people cannot take 2 weeks off because there's no one to back them up. We just don't have the resources to do that. So we're gonna be looking, and I hope to bring to the Board of Selectmen a recommendation for a payroll service, and look to implement it at the end of this year, which I do have some money in shared services because I was holding it to implement the time clocks, the electronic time clocks. So just a heads up to you that that's something on the horizon, and most important to me in that is it takes a lot of the compliance and liability away from the town. It gives employees greater HR access.
Speaking of which, so with the HR thing, we did it for Board of Ed, right?
We started implementing, so our accounting system has an HR system. Given, and it's good, one of the issues is I have to do all of the back office work, number one. Number two, we have 8 unions. So customizing, and then we have non-unions and part-time permanent. So customizing all that back office is very difficult. And I really was hopeful that Munis could do a lot, but these payroll services will customize all of this for us. They'll keep us compliant with ACA, and quite frankly, and I've said it before, I could use another staff member, so this would free these people up to do other work, especially like a CAFR. I have the staff member who's taking on a good role in that. So by freeing them up from doing, and Rob's got to watch a couple payrolls, they're very labor intensive, and it just, I think it would be a good thing for the town, and we would show to our citizens we're much more accountable, and people logging their time, everything would be electronic and transparent, and so that's where we're headed.
Have you had a conversation yet? I know we talked about it last week, the Bloom Shapiro
No.
outsourcing.
Bloom Shapiro and has an outsource option to help us with a little tandeming on the HR position. We've been, Rob and I have been going budget meeting.
So if I may, just,
So this
if I
is
could
going
give a little
back to,
color to this.
we put money in
We
the
did
Board of
budget
Ed,
money.
right?
No,
Right.
shared services.
For like an outsourcing of
For
something.
Well,
something.
the
Yeah.
idea was to have some HR support.
Right.
We recommended looking at all the options to
Right.
include either bringing someone on or whatnot. So the way I think I've seen it flush out is they either try to find a person and they hire to that. I think we're thinking of payroll services providing some of those resources, which they do, but often, I know in my case, when, they tell me to distribute, the regulations on, or my safe harbor notice on my 401k plan or whatever, they give me the timing of things that I should do, but they don't really handle the HR function to that degree that I need. And then the Bloom Shapiro is a true outsourcing where they have a body that would be hired to come in and do certain related functions that are hired to do. So there's 3 options, and they're going to explore all 3.
Okay. Exactly. So that's, we took on Munis with the payroll, et cetera, but in talking to, I've been meeting extensively with the 2 major payroll services. They've done customized demonstrations. It's just an analysis of which one's best for us.
So Cindy, in that same question, you haven't spent the money on hiring the person.
Correct.
So there's money budgeted. This would fall into that scope.
Potentially, but I do have money in shared services that I planned on buying electronic time clocks. So if we were to implement it this year, we could get through. We were looking to try to implement by the end of the year.
All right, sounds good.
So I really want to provide that online ease of use service for our employees as well.
Okay.
If I might, from my perspective and looking at the number of issues with the number of employees working all different hours and the way we have it set up now, and looking at the time cards, I have no idea sometimes what the individuals have written down, and quite honestly, I don't think Dawn does either, because especially when you're looking at overtime and various grants and things like that. So to be much more accurate and evaluate if the employees are properly being compensated and are properly coding where it's going, I think that, we need to be looking at one of these programs, because it's one thing if we're salaried people, but we have so many hourly people working different schedules, that we need this capability to evaluate their effectiveness and, I won't say honesty, but I don't think anybody's intentionally cheating, but it's very hard to differentiate and evaluate where the money is going.
Makes sense.
And it would equip Rob to be able to go right into the system and know what employees are here, where they are, how their overtime's tracking, et cetera. So he would have those tools.
Is the Munis plug-in something we pay for?
We do,
So we would take that out.
correct.
So
So
there's,
some savings.
right, yeah.
It's not a full offset, but yes.
Yeah, no, but there's something.
So just to give you a heads up on that.
Okay.
Do you have different account numbers for whatever job they're doing? For example, some days they're plowing snow, another day they're moving gravel.
Yes.
Do you have that, like if it's a private business, that's what I'd be doing.
So that is being done at the office right now, and how it's broken out, but some of this stuff, I believe, can be,
Well, for snow, for example, they're paid under the snow budget for any hours outside of the scope of the normal workday. So if they're out for snow and it's not on their 7 to 3:30 or
Yeah.
whatever it is, then it's on the snow budget.
but he's asking, is there, on when they punch
Yes.
in or do it in, there's a separate way to identify it?
There is, and both accounting, both payroll services we're looking at have automatic load up to our accounting system, so there's no manual effort on our part there as well. But yes, I think it would give it a crisper picture. And if you
Absolutely.
saw how some of these time cards come in, I give Dawn and Terry immense credit.
I mean, the time cards you have to picture are not punch cards, they're handwritten on them, so.
Talking 1940 technology.
No, you've
The idea
made
that we're still
tremendous
doing that is
progress
crazy.
in the automation of finances here in the town. This is just the next evolution. We totally
absolutely.
agree. Okay, anything
Thank
else?
you.
Finance?
That's it, sorry.
All right, that's fine. Let's go on the agenda to liaison reports. Any new liaison reports? I have one with, no, I don't, I'm just kidding. None today, right?
None, no.
All right, good. Old business, so we have our Board of Finance meeting calendar, and we have to approve it. So, has anyone had a chance to review this? Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to approve the 2020 Board of Finance meeting calendar as presented and to incorporate it, the approved dates into the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. New business. 2020 annual report. This one was actually really nice.
There's some holes to fill still, and we're working on them.
So when I went through it, I was quite very impressed. It looks nice, and you know what? It's always looked nice. You do a great job with it, so we're really grateful about it. I went through it, I enjoyed it, and then I said, wow, we didn't have anything written in there for Board of Finance. And then I saw accompanying that was the information where we get to put service level accomplishments. The reason we didn't fill it out was we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to give their feedback. And you'll see a corresponding form here that says General Government Board of Finance.
That's actually the budget form,
This is the
sorry.
budget one, okay.
Sorry. That's-
But it is budget,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry. It's very similar. But
The big picture goal is, what kind of things do we want to put in that section? I thought we would highlight some of the things that I brought up in my presentation tonight, but if there's anything you want to include, talk about direction we're heading, anything of that nature, please feel free to send it to Cindy. She's going to massage it. Our suspense date for this is year end. 12/31 is when you got to get it done.
I have to get it
So
done
get it to us
on the
before
printer.
then, and then she'll have it set and ready.
Normally, we try to have the annual report approved before the end of the fiscal year, but given that the holidays are falling Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to be approved at Wednesday, January 8th town meeting. So I need to get it to the printer on the 2nd. And we'll fill in the departments that don't have the information, and many of these photos are courtesy of the Planet Conservation Development, and George Fellner was most generous with his photos.
Rose Farm Reserve.
Very nice. Any questions on this? Okay, I'll move us forward. What I need to do is I have to have a motion
Thank
to
you.
approve the 2018-2019 annual report contingent upon receipt of missing reports and the final proofing. Something like that.
So moved.
Someone second that.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Board of Finance budget requests. That's what we were talking about. Cindy, would you give us a little color to this, please?
Yes, so you have a narrative each year, and I think into what Bill was speaking about, any of this year's major service level accomplishments, anyone wants to email us, Bill and I can work on that, any major service level goals for next year. So one item I can see on here is to produce a CAFR for this fiscal year, right? So that's on there. Standard, but we want to make sure we get anyone's input. And then the other 2 pages, if you lay them out, walking through your budget, I did put together some recommendations for your budget request. The first one is the annual audit is $45,000, but the Board of Ed pays $10,000 of that. We have the GAS, and that includes the CAFR and the federal and state single audits. Then we have GASB 75, and this corrected it. It's OPEB, and for other people who don't know what it is, OPEB is other post-employment benefits. So we have an analysis done every year of our post-employment benefits. We really don't offer any post-employment benefits, but they do an implicit evaluation as to, well, if we did, we put it on our financial statement. And then the GFOA, and the Board of Ed splits that with us, and then the GFOA application fee for the excellence in financial reporting. So your purchased services auditors would have an increase of $64.60. Postage, and notwithstanding what Harvey said, we're not mailing the citizens' guides any longer, so you're not expending the money for postage. And we weren't mailing board packets. I still think 500 would be sufficient. Increased advertising. Increased for printing and binding just slightly. Bond continuing disclosure, what that is the gentleman we spoke of earlier, Bill Lindsay, files are required reporting to the SEC for our tax exempt general obligation bonds. And then holding contingency at $90,000. In the budget, it looks like you have a $9,000 increase in contingency because when you use contingency, you transfer it. So if you recall, $9,000 was transferred to capital projects to do the transfer station gate. So it's really, it's an increase to the revised budget, not to your original budget. So if you take that out, it's a budget request of $5,360 more, largely in the audit and OPEB realm. And those were the numbers. I would look back at your budgets that looked reasonable to me, but just for the board's review.
Questions?
No, I think it looks fine.
Nothing right now, no, thank you.
Looks good.
Tracy?
And if you look in the yellow, as the budget gets prepared, those fields will be populated and tell us if you're within your contingency fund requirements based on your policy.
Okay. And again, these are due by January 6th, so we'll have a shot at those. All right, we're getting close to the end. Any guest or audience comments? No? Okay. Anything else on the agenda I overlooked or should discuss?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so
Thank
moved.
you.
Thank you all.
Oh, let me shut off the tape. Nice.
Too exciting.